Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Great Car Era, a podcast by EVTUNERS about charting a path in the new frontier for tuning culture and performance enthusiasts. Today, I'm joined by Tiffany Tucker, the founder of a car design application called Electric Mods. Tiffany's app brings together a growing list of EVs with different rims, body kits, colors, and details, all of which are actually manufactured. So if you ever had a wild idea to customize, this app makes it so you can see how it would turn out and then just the parts to buy to make it real. We cover everything from Tiffany's entrepreneurial journey to the changing concept of tuning and advice for people wanting to get into it. Enjoy. One of the things I wanted to start with was talking a little bit about your Mitsubishi Mirage, since that is something, it reminds me of my days tuning my Mitsubishi Eclipse and the busted knuckles and all of that good stuff. So you were starting to tell me about it before. Could you loop back and maybe tell me again?
Sure. So the Mitsubishi Mirage was probably the first car that I bought for myself when I was in college. It was red. And I think at the time, spinners were a big thing back then.
Nice. Yeah.
And as a college kid, I couldn't afford spinners. So I went over to Pep Boys and I got these spinning red hubcaps, where it was like silver on the outside and red on the interior. So when I would drive, the red would kind of spin. So I did that. And then a lot of it was,
that's sick.
yeah, like a lot of it was mainly aesthetic. And then, I added a sound system. And it was really cool because it was, the bass was really strong. Back window was vibrating. It wasn't like the obnoxious vibrating, but it was like a nice solid bass.
Okay.
So I did that. And then I had like red and black seat covers. I had the lighting. I think that was it. I think I was like,
Nice.
that was the most I've done to my Mirage.
Sound systems are like key. You got to
Yeah,
have that.
yeah.
I did not do as good a job as you. I had a sound system, but it was the annoying type. It was just
Oh,
vibrating. My trunk was going off, and I would even lose the rear view mirror
right.
as I was driving because it would just vibrate off.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Like I
in
loved it.
hindsight, I'm like, that wasn't as cool as I thought.
That was the thing. Like when I got it, I didn't want it to be, you hear the cars coming down the streets and
Hmm.
it's like
Hmm.
almost like the whole car is vibrating. Like I wanted it to be like a nice solid bass. There were certain songs I wanted to hear that had a good sound to it. So that was like what I was after. That was probably like the like best mod that I had done to the car was to the sound.
Nice. And did you learn? Did you learn as you went, or follow online stuff? Did you install the sound system yourself, or get it
No.
done?
So I actually, I mean, like the lighting I did myself,
Yeah.
seat covers, the hubcaps did myself. I didn't really get into, and even with my EV, I really didn't get into making any like major changes to the car until I got my Tesla.
Nice.
And major, I mean, we'll get into that, but it was more of like aesthetic things. But that was like what I did myself. That was like most proud of.
I mean, that's what makes it yours, right? The personalization.
Yes,
So
exactly.
let's talk about the Tesla. That's what you drive now. No more
Yes.
Mitsubishi Mirage. Which one do
No.
you have?
So I have the Model 3. It's the 2018 mid-range. I think in a couple groups they call it the limited edition mid-range, so the lemur.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I have is a 2018 midnight silver metallic.
Awesome. And what have you done to it now to make it take it from that midnight silver metallic, which is the best color, by the way. I'm
Oh yeah,
very
hands down.
that's what
Hands,
mine is too. So
yeah,
uh
hands down.
but what have
Uh,
you done?
so I did the chrome delete with brush black metallic. I also did brush black metallic on the dash. I did brush black metallic on the center console. And the reason why I did the brush black metallic is, everyone was doing black, right? For their
Yeah.
chrome delete. And I wanted something unique, kind of funky. And so with the brush black metallic, as you probably know, it has like the brush strokes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to make sure that I had that because it was unique. It had like that little shimmer to it.
Yeah.
So I did that. on the chrome delete, the dash, the center console, and then the interior buttons on the door. Then I also did a bright green on the emblems. I did a green wrap on the interior of the mirror cap, which was quite challenging, but
Interesting.
satisfying until it was done.
Yeah.
And I did bright green trim on the dash. I did that same bright green trim on the console. And I changed out the, we're on a blank now. On the doors, the lights that reflect down on the ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I put the T's, I have T's in the front, and then the threes with like the 3 lines, kind of like on my emblem. I did that in the passenger doors. And what else did I do? I wanted to, I did interior lighting that kind of change and moves to the music. I wanted to
Oh,
change out
whoa. So it's sound adaptive?
yeah. It's not, it's
Cool.
a little glitchy. I'm not gonna say it's perfect.
That's
But
just tech, right?
exactly. But yeah, so I have the lighting that moves to the music, and then I wanted to change the headliner, but I'm not that adventurous, so that's
Yet.
both. Yeah.
Yet.
Well, yeah. And then there are some changes that I want to do to the car physically,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm planning those in the app. And I'm not doing that myself.
Right. Get the experts to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. Other than maybe rotating the tires, I
Right.
don't really want to bust my knuckles anymore.
No. And
Especially-
the funny thing is, I feel like with Tesla, at least for me, the one thing that made it easy for me to customize it was almost like Lego pieces.
Hmm,
Where it's like I felt like the interior door panel could just pop right out. The
really?
could just pop right out. And I literally had the dash sitting on my dining table when I was wrapping it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
There
so
wasn't like little clips that fall
it
down
had
the door
clips.
and you never find again.
So I do have a piece left over.
Okay.
It's still in the pocket of my door. And I know it goes somewhere in the door, but it still works. So I'm just gonna leave it. There's my souvenir, just remembering what I used to do to the car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And
So,
then, sorry, one more thing I
yeah,
forgot
yeah.
is that I had the wheels painted black and green calipers. So the whole like gray, black, green theme going on.
I'm envisioning like a lime green, something real
Oh
bright.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
kind of right?
Yeah. It's
Awesome.
right. It's right.
So you said you didn't do any mods to the exterior yet. No major body mods. Um, I think that is actually kind of an interesting segue into what you've envisioned for EV mods, right? I downloaded the app, super cool. You can like go through and try different things out without actually having to take anything apart. So
Right.
maybe sounds like maybe kind of the idea for that might have been connected here. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so electric mods is the concept kind of started with me customizing my car. So I would say probably like in March of 2021, I got my car literally right before the pandemic. So February 28th, and then that was it. It was like everything was shut down.
Nice.
And so, yeah, so at the time I had joined a ton of Facebook groups, and one group in particular, which really kind of rekindled that desire to customize my car. It was all about modding the Tesla. And so, I started doing some research, on different companies that make aftermarket parts, and, the customization journey began. And then I kind of got to the point where I wanted to do something really unique with my wheels. And in my mind, I'm like, I really want to see green wheels, right? Again, with the whole
Yeah,
green
that
theme.
lime
And
green.
yeah, like I wanted it to be tasteful. And at the time, I had done like a ton of Google searching in the images, searching like
Hmm.
keyword green rims, green wheels, gray car. And I got to a point where I couldn't really see what I wanted to see in the way that I wanted to see it. So I actually took, let me see if I have it. I actually took a screenshot on my phone, and then I drew in the green wheels just to give myself that visual, because I didn't have it before. I thought I had, oh yeah, here it is. So let me turn my brightness up so you can see. So literally, I drew
Oh
in.
yeah.
So this was me trying to envision what it was going to look like. And so I was saying to myself, it's unfortunate that there isn't a place for me to actually design this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
before I had started down the path of creating electric mods, I went to several Facebook groups. I wanted to see if I was the only one that felt this way.
Sure.
Are there others out there that are asking the same questions? And sure enough, they were.
Mm.
And what I did was I started to take screenshots. Every time I saw a post where someone was asking, do you have a black car with this? What caliper color goes with that? What wheels should I do with this? And again, just snapping screenshots. And it kind of
Yeah.
served a motivation for me to go down this path,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to fill that gap that I saw and felt myself. And so that's kind of like how it got started. The concept got started. And once I started to see that there was a real need and real questions were being asked that this app could answer, this platform could answer, the rest was history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like growing out pretty quick. I feel like every time I log in, there's new parts, new things to try, new
Oh yeah.
locations to kind of see your car in and
Yeah. I
amongst.
mean, the one thing that I wanted the app to represent, some people are using it for fun, right? And I get it, right? It's nice to kind of just play around with different car designs. But then there are people that are using it for the purpose of truly envisioning or visualizing what their new build will look like. I
Mm-hmm.
have some people who I would consider, somewhat like my friends, my social media friends, and customers or clients will reach out to me and show me designs that they've created, and they're super excited about it. And that was one of the whole purposes of the platform, was to give you that opportunity. I think that with the EV aftermarket, it's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's an emerging market. So there's brands that people aren't aware of. There's modifications that people aren't thinking of. I had someone reach out to me and was like, "Hey, can you allow me to customize the fender? I just want to change the fenders alone to be a certain color and finish." And it was like, "Sure." That's the thing that because it's allowing people to be super creative, and now
Mm-hmm.
they have a platform to be super creative. um that's what it's here for.
That's awesome. And it is fun. And it sounds like you're getting all sorts of community engagement, which is sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And the one point I was going to make too, with the different environments, so the other thing that I wanted to make sure that I don't think a lot of people understand happens behind the scenes is that I try to make things as perfect as possible, right? And so with those scenes, the scenes serve a purpose of allowing you to see what it'll be like in low light.
Mm-hmm.
If, if it's a sunny day, what it will look like, um, in different environments. Because at first, when I was working with my developer and we were looking at the different backgrounds, and I'm like, wait, it looks so different. You sure
Yeah.
mess with the, something on the back end? And then when I'd like to do like uh comparisons to show the render in the app versus what someone actually has, to drive that concept that this is for you to design your actual car.
Mm-hmm.
And I would try and get like a good shot of the car at different angles, and I would notice that the colors looked entirely different depending on the environment that the real car was in. So, you know, the different environments there, even with the chrome, we want it to shine. Chrome is supposed to shine. It's supposed to Gloss is supposed to reflect the environment. So
Yeah.
all of those things I'm taking into consideration as we're building it out, because we want it to be as close to a real representation of what you're going to get as possible.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Almost like midnight silver metallic, that color we were talking about. It almost
Yeah.
looks black at night.
Oh
And it
man, like
totally
that.
different color.
Yeah. So in the app we have, so someone has suggested doing default colors for Tesla.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, no problem. So like red, and we are trying to like match up the red. And then when it came to the midnight silver metallic, that was like so hard to try and tweak, especially because the environment that we first started with had almost like this purple hue to it. And so trying to tweak it and get it just right. But I feel like we're close. We're close enough at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that is one of the things that makes the app really powerful in how I've used it, is that it is real colors and real parts. And
Right.
one of the things I was doing was trying to figure out what my next rims might be. I curb rashed them
Oh
at one
man.
point, and I did get it fixed. But for a moment, I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get new rims. This is the excuse I needed." So
Right.
trying that out, and I went to Midnight Silver Metallic and used that one, and it was exactly like what I expected. Uh, so that, other than just blue or gray or something like that,
Mhm.
calibrating it to what it really is makes it extra powerful.
Yeah, and that's the other point too with the platform is I try to, while I'm on social media, I'm paying attention to the customizations that others are doing to their cars. You know, the person that came to me and asked about the fender, that's different because they actually came to me and said, "Hey, I would like to have this change." But I'll see something and I'll hit up my team like, "Hey, it looks like people are starting to do so and so. Let's put this in the platform because others may not even be aware that that's an option."
Sure.
And that's the other thing too, is that I wanted it to be a place where you can kind of let your imagination run wild and not be stuck in the idea of someone else's, right? Because you're kind of going off the pictures that you see from someone else. You're going from the pictures that you see from a manufacturer. This is where you get to create the design that you're envisioning.
So a lot of it is Tesla right now, right? But is there going to be other cars added to the app in the future?
Yeah, so right now it's Tesla and it's the Ford Mach-E.
Hmm.
We already have a few cars already slated to be loaded into the app before the end of the year. And yeah, so definitely more EVs coming up.
How do you go about in calibrating those real parts? Are you working with the builders, the distributors of those parts to get the designs right, or just looking at those products and then trying to get them as close as possible?
So I have a really, really skilled guy on my team. And in most cases, unless it's something where the manufacturer doesn't have really good photos,
Hmm.
we will have to collaborate with them and say, hey, and again, this goes back to like it being as perfect as possible. So I'll give you an example. We just loaded the CMS, no, Robot Craftsman. I think it's the Hacker body kit, the wide body kit.
Yeah.
We're doing testing and stuff, and I'm playing around, looking, designing the car, and I'm looking at the picture. I'm like, wait a minute, the diffuser is black. There's much more of a black part of the diffuser than what we have. Like we had another part white as if it was a part of the car. I'm like,
Hmm.
no, that's supposed to be black. And so, we're going through and doing what we can to make sure that it's as accurate of a representation of that part as possible. Like I would hate for you to get the part on the car and say, oh, this is supposed to be white, and in my app it's black. So we even take those things into consideration.
Interesting. So you're taking those parts and rendering them yourselves.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
any of the like distributors, those companies, have they reached out to you folks excited about what you're doing?
So I haven't reached out to any distributors yet. I've been mainly working with the actual manufacturers of the
Yeah.
parts. So, but no distributors yet. Yeah, I did reach out to one recently, so we'll see how that goes.
All right. But the
Yeah.
manufacturers, they must be, I mean, this is kind of a new thing. How are they reacting to it? They think it's pretty cool, or see
Yeah.
some potential collaboration or market in this area?
Yeah, I would say one of the companies that at first reached out to, at first, they were concerned about how realistic it was going to look in the
Hmm.
platform. And once they downloaded it, it was just like, oh, okay, never mind, it's there. So yeah, they're very excited to work with us. And we're just going to keep the parts coming.
Heck yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about in this kind of space, we're talking about tuning EVs, and a lot of car enthusiasts are familiar with body kits and some of
Mhm.
those things, but tuning at large, there's been people saying that like with EVs, tuning is over, there's no more. Um, but I kind of think that it's just changing. The
Correct.
what it means to tune is changing. The means that people go about tuning is kind of changing. From your kind of seat at the front or the leading edge of this, what do you see happening in the concept of tuning within car culture?
The funny thing is that when I was coming up with the name for the app and then deciding on how I would describe it in the App Store, I was going to, and I ended up using tuning as a part of like the naming in the App Store, but I was hesitant because I didn't want to misrepresent the concept of tuning, right? And so I had done some research. I'm very big on researching, and so I had done some
Nice.
research just to see what the sentiments were and how the community was when it came to EV tuning.
Hmm.
And there's so many articles where, people were completely against it, almost like it was like blasphemy, like an oxymoron. You can't
Yeah.
tune an EV. And as I continued to research, it's not an ICE vehicle, right? So you're not changing out valves, there are no turbos, no engine tuning or anything like that. It's battery and software. Um,
Hmm.
and so, I really like was digging into tuning, modification, asking friends, like, when you think of tuning, what do you think? Just because, like I said, I respect tuning, whether it's for ICE vehicles or EVs. So I wanted to be very careful. And what I found is that, it is tuning, just because it's a battery and software and you're not changing out those parts, it is customizing that vehicle. You are modifying that vehicle in some capacity.
Hmm.
Some are doing it just for aesthetics with the really awesome wraps or the really awesome wheels. But then there are others that are still tuning it for performance. Like they're fast cars, right? But there is
Yeah.
room left for tuning it from a performance side of the house. There's companies out there that are making performance only parts and helping others build EV race cars. So to your point, and I say this often, is that it's not that tuning is dead, it's just different now. You may start to see a shift to uh, software tuning. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, there was a module that was put out a couple years ago. I think it was called like Ghost or something, and it allowed you to have the 0 to 60 of a plaid or of a performance Model 3 if you had a long range Model 3. So they're doing like software modifications now. So, going back to that concept where it's not that it's dead. And that's also the part where I feel like with the platform, yeah, it's a platform for EV owners and enthusiasts to kind of envision how they can customize their car, make it unique, discover aftermarket parts, discover aftermarket vendors. But it's almost like, to me, and I'm trying to kind of like push it where it's representing a community and it's representing a part of the industry that is changing. When I see these EV owners that are going out to car shows, and sometimes I'll go to these car shows and it's just two EVs there, right?
Hmm.
But I say kudos to you because it's going to be two today and 100 tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so, I really feel like there is this movement and this transition, and I want to help those that are thinking that it's dead, um, to see that it's not. And you could make these cars look really freaking awesome. And they're already fast as it is, right? You
Yeah.
can make it even faster and they'll still look awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the things that really got me into EVs at the beginning was that performance.
Hmm.
To me, I was just looking purely at the performance and the numbers, and like, oh man. I mean, as soon as F1 started having some hybrid in their cars, it's like, wait, there's something here. And now the
Right.
Teslas and the all the other EVs that are coming onto the market, they're just faster than anything else. And I
Right.
mean, it's kind of cheap horsepower
Yeah.
as
Yeah. So
as far as tuning, what comes to mind, I think back years ago when we used to build gaming rigs,
Mm-hmm.
and you would assemble all of this part. You choose your motherboard and your processor and your RAM, and then you have it, and that's good. But then you get into the software and you could start overclocking it, and like,
Right.
oh, now it's getting hot, so you got to add some cooling to it.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, that was during a time where I was also monkeying around with that turbo eclipse, and it's like, wait a minute, I turn up the horsepower and it gets hot too, so I need to deal with the cooling. These are very similar things, it's just different types of hardware.
Correct. Correct. Totally agree with that.
um I also feel like growing up and at different points in life, we hear about, oh, these different car eras. And I think you had mentioned something about this is just getting going, and two
Mm-hmm.
EVs now and 100 EVs in the future. It does feel like we're kind of at the cusp of some kind of exciting stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think that we are on the cusp of exciting stuff. When I when I was looking to customize my Tesla, and this is minor, but it kind of just shows you how things have adapted and is continuing to grow in the EV aftermarket. And again, this is minor, but when it came to me wanting to add the green trim,
Hmm.
right? A lot of the manufacturers out there only were doing like black, white, and red. They had very standard colors. But people wanted something more. They wanted, a variety. And so these same companies started to then add in more colors. And then as they started to increase the pre-cut vinyls that they had, they also started to get more aftermarket parts. And so I think that we are seeing a not necessarily a transition, because a lot of the companies that make aftermarket parts for ICE vehicles are now branching over into the EV space and
Hmm.
making aftermarket parts for the EV community. And they're just getting started, right? Like one of the companies that I work with in the app right now, it's very Model 3 heavy, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, Model 3 is probably one of the most modded EVs out there right now. And so I'm slowly starting to see the mods coming for the Mach E, the mods coming for even the Model S. And so it's coming, like slowly but surely they're adding more aftermarket parts for these cars. It's going to take time. And I'm not saying like years, because they'll probably come out with more stuff tomorrow, but the
Yeah.
point is that it's an evolving industry. And especially as they come out with like, they have the ID buzz that people are going crazy over, right? Like a lot of these cars are first, so with them being the first for that particular manufacturer, now you have to figure out, well, what parts can I make for this totally new version of this manufacturer's standard line.
Yeah, totally. And start testing them out. When I was at
Mhm.
Holly High Voltage earlier this year, I was
When can I go to that?
next year 3. I
Yeah,
mean, it's brand new. We'll see you
yeah,
there, hopefully.
yes.
But I was talking to one of the guys racing. He has a shop, and he was literally had been fabbing up his own parts and then testing them himself at the autocross track and on the road race track, and drag strip, seeing how it goes. And once he fine tunes them, then they're going to be parts that we can buy. But
Mhm.
it's that early in it.
Yeah, very, very early. And I actually had someone say to me, I went to a car event maybe like a couple months ago. And I went over to this booth. I like to connect and be like, hey, this is my app. And would you like to put your parts in the app? And I'll tell them about it, whatever. And so this one particular, they weren't a aftermarket parts company. I think they were more so just a car. They had like car apparel and stuff like that. And they
Sure.
did events and stuff. And so I was telling them about the app, and they just said, I think you're too early. You should open it up to ICE vehicles. You're not really going to get anywhere with EVs. And that was almost like a motivation to be like, no, I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah.
Because I think that the respect for the EV tuning and just respect for EVs is still something that's coming, growing, getting better.
Hmm.
And I don't, I want to continue to foster that community of the EV growth, the EV expansion, the EV community, and the EV tuning ultimately.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited too. Any advice for people wanting to start getting into EVs?
So before I got mine, I had my heart set on a BMW. That was like the car I was gonna get after
All
I had a
right.
Jetta, and I loved my Jetta. And I was like, nope, after this, it was paid off for like a couple years. I'm like, I'm getting my BMW.
Mm-hmm.
And a colleague of mine asked me, and I wasn't even, EVs never even crossed my mind, to be honest. I was like, where was I all this time? You know what I mean? So like, my coworker comes to work and he's like, hey, I had to run an errand. He's like, I'll take you in my car. And he had a Tesla Model 3. And I'm like, what is this? Right? Like it was totally like, totally different concept. And so we get in the car and he's driving me around and I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's whatever. It's a nice car. Had no interest in it at all. And they had a dealership that was like down the block from where I worked. So I went over there and I went for a drive, and I never thought about getting my 325. It was like 325, 328i. It just totally was like, where do I sign? Because I think just the concept of it not needing gas, right? And this is just in general, no plug for Tesla. I love Tesla, but no plug for them specifically.
Sure.
All EVs, right? Like
Yeah.
the lack of maintenance, no gas, the 0 to 60, just the experience of the car itself. After I drove it, that was it, right? So I would say definitely go test drive a ton of them, because now there's so many out there.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
So amazing. Yeah, so definitely go test drive one. And then I would say speak to someone that that has an EV, because unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I would say speak to someone that that has an EV, and get whatever questions you have out there, any information you've heard that's having you doubt the purchase of an EV, just talk to someone, and I would say then make your opinion on whether or not you would want one.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Awesome, Tiffany. Well, I'm going to add in your contact info for the app and Instagram and all of that into the show notes. But thank you so much for carving out the time, sharing some of your expertise, and look forward to seeing you at some events here soon.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.